sorry, CTO. So it's awesome to see so many faces in here. I mean, Bitcoin's blowing up, and I'm sure there's so many early adopters in here, but it's just awesome to see. First time I came here, I was in a boardroom with 5 people. Second time, 100 people. Third time, maybe 1,000 people. It's a good future here in Vancouver, especially. A lot of early adopters here because of mining efficiency and stuff like that. In terms of what I do, I developed the Syscoin protocol, which leverages the Bitcoin protocol, but it adds on a few services on top. The 0.1 reference protocol of Bitcoin actually had a marketplace. I'm not sure if you know about that, but Satoshi had to take it out because of scope creep. It doesn't really match with the original vision. The killer app of Bitcoin is money, right? And so marketplace has no picture in there. But we actually fulfilled that vision. We wanted to create an on-chain marketplace. But you might be asking, how does it scale? So we did pruning, we don't hash the offers on the marketplace in the transaction. So there's multiple ways to make it scalable. And we wanted to make an on-chain marketplace that replaces Silk Road. So we did have something there, not only offers, but we want to actually extend that. We wanted to be able to have land titles on the blockchain, so you can buy and sell real estate. As long as the legal representatives are there to prove that a transfer happened, it's completely legal, right? We can have encrypted messaging through ECIS, ECDH. We can actually do crypto secure messaging on the blockchain, so you can send and receive messages without worrying about man-in-the-middle attacks. And obviously escrow, you'll be able to facilitate sales between 2 people. You don't be able to sell something without worrying about the guy in the middle taking the money or the merchant running away. You have some guy in the middle that doesn't control the funds. He just releases the money either to the buyer or refund it to the buyer or back to the seller. That kind of stuff is really important. It's a simple multi-sig address. And I think Andrew Poelstra is here from Blockstream. He can talk a little bit more about the privacy side of things, but we're headed towards being able to have sovereign identity on the blockchain, and that ties into our aliases, our identity solution. We want to be able to do zero-knowledge proofs so that you can prove that your credit score is over 500 without actually giving your credit score. How cool is that? That's what we're kind of leading up to in terms of smart contracts and stuff. But right now, what we want to do is a proof of concept with 5 different services on the blockchain. It's working. It's actually available. So basically, what we do is a decentralized marketplace on the blockchain. It's an eBay killer, an Etsy killer, basically Craigslist style. Our closest competitor is OpenBazaar. They got $4 million in funding. They're P2P and they're not blockchain, so you have to be online to be able to buy and sell. We are blockchain, so you can buy things when you're offline, you can buy things when you're online. The payments will come through, and you don't have to be worried about censorship. You can buy and sell anything, right? Over Tor, we accept Zcash, so you can basically anonymously accept payments in an anonymous payment protocol. And through you accept the Zcash public address, and then you can go and make it private if you want and hide your payments. So there's a total route in making sure that you are anonymous if you are an anonymous buyer on the darknet. But we're not catering to the darknet, so we do have protocols in place in terms of moderation. But we do have a fully functional proof of concept that will work. And so it'll serve not only darknets, but average people as well. Identity applications are really important. So the first thing on the blockchain you need is an identity, is onboarding, KYC, AML. You want to be able to prove who you are as a person. You want to be able to bring in, maybe signatures from a witness, notarizing who you are. Maybe social media connects you. There's different ways to prove who you are on the blockchain. Through signatures. Your public key is your public key, and only you have access to the private key of that public address. But you need to be able to do more stuff to be able to prove to somebody else you are who you are. You're not just an address. I think that was...
On the mouse.
Well, related to the identity, so we're affiliated with Microsoft's Decentralized Identity Foundation. They're trying to figure out what the best path is to come up with an identity on the blockchain. So what are the specifications to be able to say, you know, what you are, who you are, how to prove who you are, and which data do you need? And so we are working with Microsoft to come up with that specification. And that specification is going to be totally open source. It's going to be scalable. It's going to, you know, it's going to give, you know, that 1 million transactions per second ability. So many people in the world can onboard onto the blockchain. You can get the total, you know, borderless, you know, censorship-resistant protocols while proving who you are and bringing your identity on the blockchain. Not only that, in Syscoin you can actually tie in your marketplace, your certificates, your messages, your escrow, all to that identity. And then in the future, we're going to extend that protocol so anything's possible in terms of which type of contracts we'll put on. And obviously, supply chain is a really big thing in terms of being able to prove which parts came from which places and stuff like that. As long as you have identity, which is the key piece, that's all that's needed. And so we're doing a lot of work with Microsoft to figure out what the right data is we need. Once we have that, we're going to put that into our identity solution. And then further, in our next iteration of our product, we're going to have a working release related to the Microsoft identity. So we're participating every Wednesday with Microsoft to come up with a protocol, and I think a lot of big companies, IBM, Tyrion, Blockstack, Microsoft, we're all trying to figure out, you know, what the right way to do that is, and you know, we're getting there. It's going to take time, but we're getting there. So we're also looking for a coordination. So if anyone has ideas, if anyone's in that industry, you know, and how to solve that problem, we're going to be there and we're going to listen to you. And we're going to incorporate that solution into something that's useful. So obviously the stuff that we've done is you know, I'm not trying to trivialize it. It is, you know, it's pretty complex, but we're creating a UI that's very usable, and it's going to be, you know, and I'm going to demo that, by the way, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be something that, you know, early adopters can appreciate, but it's not going to be, you know, eBay style marketplace yet. You know, there's going to be a few iterations before it comes to fruition, and you know, our market cap reflects that, but it's there, and we have a decentralized marketplace. And so the first thing is, obviously you have offers, you're able to buy and sell them, you have identities, you can create an identity, you can tell people who you are, tell them your address, tell them your social network connections, and they can prove, you know, this person is on Facebook, and this was his name, and this is his signature related to his address. And then you have certificates, which can be linked to land titles. You know, if you want to buy and sell your house, you can actually do that. You can link it to an offer on the marketplace, and it will autonomously transfer as soon as you make a payment. So now you can sell your home and do it through a multi-signature address and require 2 signatures to sign off. You know, you're you and your spouse, and once you both sign off, you not only sell that home, but you get the money back to a multi-signature address. So then both of you have to sign off in order to spend those funds. So it's, you know, it's totally awesome. Like, you can be able to, you don't have any trust. I mean, you do trust your spouse, but if it's not your spouse, it might be someone else that, you know, you and your business partner. You might not set up, I wouldn't set up multi-sig between my wife, I would set up between me and my business partner. So the multi-party agreements are totally possible, and that's leveraged from the multi-sig Bitcoin core that makes the smart contracts on there totally possible. We've leveraged that through the identity solution. So it was created in 2014. We've been at it. I've been at it since 2013. Learned Bitcoin around 2013. Started coding, and you know, I'm a software engineer at heart. I went to BCIT. I'm local from here. You know, 15 years software experience, AI, digital image processing, client server. You know, I've done all that stuff, and now, you know, Bitcoin's got my heart. Like, I'm into this 100%. I'm not in this for money, you know, because I could have got out a long time ago and just been on the beach somewhere by now. But I'm into this to try to, you know, make a change and bring people together, and this is what I'm here for. So if anyone feels like they resonate with me, you know, join us in the movement. We're all in this together. We're all early adopters here, I think. We're headed to $1 trillion market cap in terms of the entire crypto atmosphere. We usually skip a log on the log chart, We're at log of 3. We're going to go to log of 5. So it's going to hit 100,000, no problem. We're going to hit a $1 trillion market cap. That's not an issue. The issue is how do we solve the problems of today? How do we solve the problems of today without the legal people getting in the way? How do we make it a decentralized marketplace? You can't shut it down. We want to make that solution available and make it so that even if you shut down our GitHub, it's still there. Someone can pick it up and take over, and it still solves a real world problem. And that's what we're after. Right? And so obviously we're merged minds. So one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to leverage Bitcoin's hash power. We wanted to be able to connect to that. We don't want to have some kind of algorithm that could be attacked by 50%. We wanted to leverage what Bitcoin's all about. So we merged mine with Bitcoin. And so it shares the hash rate with Bitcoin. And anyone mining Bitcoin on a merged mining pool will also get Syscoin. So that's the main idea. So obviously the implications are pretty big. I mean, we can do almost anything, but with our marketplace, you can do real estate, you can do insurance, you can do some kind of multi-signature medical application devices. So we got a lot of companies asking us, can you do EMR records? Can you do P2P insurance? And a lot of those issues are require scalable solutions. And right now, since everything's on the blockchain, we are investigating how to do scalable solutions. And part of what I'm going to do in NextGen is kind of work with Andrew on figuring out how to do proper privacy solutions and proper scalable on blockchain solutions that we can surface to the public and give these companies a way to solve their problems. Because right now, they're coming to us, they're like, we'll give you $1 million and please put EMR records on the blockchain, by the way. And so we're like, how can we solve that with today's architecture? We just don't have the ability. So we need to do some research there. We need to come up with solutions. We need to recommend, it'll take 6 months and this and this and this, and then finally give them a solution. So right now in the world, and this is why I'm saying you guys are early adopters. It's not priced in. It's going to come, and when it comes, it's going to be big. And I think Andrew's here with me. He's going to describe some of the problems and describe how he's solving some of the problems, and it's coming. It's pretty awesome the way he's going to describe it. It's awesome. The Decentralized Identity Foundation, I kind of talked about that, but it's big. Some of the biggest companies and the smartest names are working on figuring out identity on the blockchain and what it means. How to give information to somebody else, to a bank, to somebody else without trusting them. To tell them this is who I am, or this is my credit score, this is my age. I have corrective lenses required, something like that, right? You need to be able to keep your sovereignty on by yourself, but you still want to give your information to somebody else in terms of who you are. And so that's the sovereignty or identity on the blockchain. That's what it means. You own who you are, but you only give who you are when you trust somebody and they ask for that information. You do trust them. You want to give that information to them. That's where zero knowledge proofs come in into the picture, and that's Identity Foundation is working towards that. We're not totally there, but we're pretty far along the lines in terms of how to encrypt information, how to decrypt information, what information to give, what it means to be on blockchain identity. So basically now, I'm just gonna do a quick demo on what I did. I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna hand it off to Andrew after that. But basically, what we did was a marketplace, and we have the services. They're working. They're on the blockchain. You can download our beta. You can play with it. This is close. This is not released software, so this is something that you knew that you guys are seeing. But obviously we have a general purpose wallet. You have your offers. You can go to your marketplace. You can look at what's for sale. And this is testnet, so there's not much for sale. But you can go on there, and this is not censorable. No one can shut you down. And if you're a darknet, you can create your own version. We have an API based on an open API spec. We create an API so anyone can use the middle layer and create whatever they want. It goes on the blockchain, no shut it down. That's the main thing. So we want to leverage the network effect. We also accept Bitcoin, Zcash, and Syscoin. So we don't want that paradigm of altcoin, right? We create that thing, and then we accept Bitcoin. So anyone with Bitcoin can use this. That's the goal. So if someone's selling something, they accept Bitcoin, you can buy from them. So browse marketplace. You can obviously see there's certain things to buy. Obviously it's not an eBay killer yet. It's going to be it's very naive. It's a first implementation, but it's proving that our API works. We have a UI, we can use it, it works. And you can buy and sell stuff. So in terms of privacy, a lot of the stuff is encrypted. The notes are encrypted to the keys of the buyer and the seller, so they can read what the messages are. Yeah. But there is inherent need for a better privacy solution, and I think zero knowledge proofs plays into that. Zero knowledge proofs is an active area of study, and not many people understand that, but one person that does understand it is here with us. He's from Blockstream. He's a core Bitcoin developer, and his name's Poelstra. And I think he's going to talk a little bit about that and what it means in terms of privacy and a currency, and mainly what it means in terms of fungibility. Because your money, if it's not fungible, it's not usable. So Bitcoin today, as it is not fungible. But he's out to change that. He's going to explain how.
Okay, what do you want my drink? Cool. Thank you for that transition. My name is Poelstra. I work for Blockstream as a mathematical researcher. I do cryptographic research related to privacy and fungibility and scalability, which for blockchain turns out is kind of the same as privacy and fungibility. So I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit, which Jag can let me do, about the importance of fungibility and the kind of research that's happening to make that kind of a possibility for blockchains and various blockchain-based currencies. So what fungibility means, this is maybe a word that not all of you are familiar with.
Speak up a little bit?
Sure. Do I have a mic or anything, Jag?
There's no mic. You guys
No
speak
mic?
up.
Okay. Oh my goodness, I have a bit of a cold. I will do my best, and I will try to keep it to within 1 or 2 minutes because that's as far as I can go. So what fungibility means? Fungibility is a property of a currency that $1 or one whatever of the currency is worth $1 is worth $1. It does not matter which dollar you have. It does not matter what serial number is on it. It does not matter where, say, your loonie came from. It does not matter what hands it passed through or what kind of chemicals are left on it from its history or what have you. A dollar is a dollar is a dollar, and you can spend it in whatever way that you want to. And this is a very important property for currency to have for it to be useful, because if you don't have that, then you'll find that different loonies are worth more or less than other loonies, and people are unable to function in the economy. They're forced to, whenever they want to spend money, to figure out how much their money is actually worth, and probably they would just go to a bank and then have some database entry. And the database entries are always fungible because they're just numbers in the database. For something like a blockchain currency, for something like Bitcoin, this is many more times more important than it is for something like the Canadian loonie or the US dollar and whatever, where there is a lot of legal infrastructure in place to ensure fungibility is a real thing. The reason being that blockchain currencies are international. They are used across the planet, they are used across legal systems, they are used by all sorts of people for all sorts of reasons. And suddenly this notion of fungibility can no longer be kind of a social fiction, where you ignore the fact that your loonie has all sorts of weird chemicals on it and it came from somebody kind of sketchy and you received it from a guy who was paid under the table for whatever and so on. This is not something you care about for loonies. This is something you have to care about for Bitcoins, because it's not necessarily the CRA who you're worried about tainting your loonies. The CRA is fine. The CRA, understanding that somehow the currency has to work, is not going to press you about where your money came from. With Bitcoin, this is not true. With Bitcoin, you might have the CRA harassing you, saying, oh, these Bitcoins were used for drugs, these Bitcoins are used for tax evasion, these Bitcoins are used for whatever. You might have the IRS harassing you, you might have the government of Saudi Arabia, or China, or Somalia, or who knows what coming after you. It's a worldwide currency. It can be spent across the world, it can be used across the world, and suddenly, any sense of taint or any sense of some Bitcoins being worth more than others is relevant to everybody across the world, and we can't have some sort of social agreement that this doesn't matter the way that we do within Canada, or the way that we do within the United States, or the way that we do within the Eurozone. We really need that technologically every Bitcoin is the same as every other Bitcoin. And that's the kind of research that I work on, is looking at the way that Bitcoin works today, where every Bitcoin is received to some sort of address in some sort of quantity for some sort of reason, and spent to other addresses and passed along in parts of transactions. It's bundled together a bunch of addresses and linked together a bunch of information about the way that people are using the system. I look at that and think, how can we erase all of that information? Because while it's certainly nice that information exists, and maybe a lot of people care about that information, we definitely don't want the entire world to be able to see that information and interpret it the way that they will forever and ever. Because the entire world is a very big place, and forever is a very long time. So what we need essentially for Bitcoin to be functional for the long term and for everybody on the planet is that every Bitcoin more or less looks the same, and for every Syscoin to look more or less the same, and for every Syscoin and every Litecoin and whatever have you, it should look more or less the same. And what I do at Blockstream is research different ways to make this possible. And so one critical thing, or one technology that deals a critical blow to people who would want to undermine this is something called confidential assets, which is a way of encoding coins or encoding any kind of asset on a blockchain such that the amount of whatever asset it is and the asset itself, what kind of asset it is invisible to people validating the blockchain. Okay, so you can have Bitcoins, you can have Litecoins, you can have Syscoin, you can have whatever you want within some sort of transaction on a blockchain supporting confidential assets. And to ordinary people verifying the transaction, it will look as though some amount of something went to some amount of somewhere. And critically, this is important to all these systems, those people who see some amount of something going to some amount of somewhere, they can still verify that nothing was created or destroyed, nothing was stolen, nothing illegal, nothing untoward happened here. They don't know what moved where for what reason, but they know that whatever happened was a legitimate transaction. So this fungibility thing that I'm focusing on so much is critical in the Bitcoin space, but it's also critical that we have fungibility in a context where it's still possible to publicly verify that every transaction was legitimate and correctly formed and nothing funny has happened and people can still have faith in the system. And so things like this confidential assets technology that I've helped develop create a system in which that's possible, where it's possible to move arbitrary amounts of arbitrary whatevers around such that people can still verify that this happened legitimately, but can't tell what went where. And importantly, can't distinguish if they receive something. Well, anybody receiving something, of course, can tell what they're receiving because they're receiving it. The system would be useless otherwise. They can receive something knowing that the rest of the world can't see what it was or how much it was, or importantly, where it came from, what its history was. All this extra research that they might otherwise have to do to determine whether or not what they received is valuable, they don't have to do. That's not relevant to them. They don't have to distinguish that. They can just say, you know what, I received one Bitcoin, I received one Syscoin, I received one Litecoin, I received whatever I received. It is worth exactly as much as it's worth. And I can use that the way that I want to use that. So what I work on is technology that encourages fungibility. As it turns out for blockchains, fungibility is almost indistinguishable from privacy. So when I'm saying that everything should have the same value, everything should have the same history, everything should have the same whatever, the way that you get that is by ensuring that every coin, from the perspective of somebody verifying the outside chain, sees the same kind of history or has the same kind of ideas about what kind of history is possible. So what that means is that if you have a fungible, if you have a usable currency, you necessarily have a private one. So this is something I encounter when I talk about my research in other contexts and other scenarios. I'm often confronted by people who are very concerned about having private blockchain technology. They say, oh, isn't this privacy stuff? Isn't that enabling anonymous people to do anonymous things? And isn't that horrible? Well, no. So first of all, it's not that I'm enabling anonymous people to do anonymous things. It's that it's necessary that that be possible for the system to work in the first place. And secondly, anonymous people doing anonymous things can already do anonymous things in anonymous ways with existing infrastructure in the world. And they can do this because there's a whole industry related to occluding the history of money, just using traditional financial instruments. So when I'm doing my fungibility, privacy, scalability, whatever research, I'm not making it possible for people to do bad things. It's already possible for people to do bad things. What I'm making it possible is for people to cheaply have fungible private currency that they can use for themselves. And the thing is that ordinary people can't afford cheap privacy because ordinary people are just trying to save money. They're trying to buy groceries. They're trying to live their lives. The people who really need privacy, the people who are doing bad things and all sorts of sketchy stuff, they can afford privacy. They're working in very high margin businesses. They're doing kind of sketchy things. They have a lot of sketchy connections. They have no problem spending 50 or 100%, not 100%, 50 or 80% of their income, ensuring that that income isn't revealed to the authorities. Versus ordinary people who are just trying to make money, who want to pay their taxes, who want to pay their bills, who want to live their lives, who don't want to be surveilled and who don't want their money to be worth less because it turns out that the Americans don't like whatever political thing that they said, or it turns out the Saudis don't like it, or it turns out the Chinese don't like it, or it turns out the Canadians don't like it someday in the future. Ordinary people want their money to maintain their value and to be worth something. And it's critical for them to have that we have a fungible, private, scalable cryptocurrency that will enable all of those things for them by ensuring that every coin is worth the same amount as every coin. And that's what I do, and I guess this is related to what Jag is trying to build. It's important to these kind of marketplaces, it's important to all sorts of systems built on this. But this is specifically what I focus on, and that's specifically what I care about. So, thank you all for listening.
All right, guys, one last thing before we get back to our mingling.
Okay.
In appreciation for you all coming here, we're going to be doing a draw. It's going to be based off of dropping your business cards in a fishbowl by the door. And